We are? All right. Well, let me call this meeting of the KBE Committee of Operations to order, and guess I'll call the roll. Lee Todd, I am here. Lou Young.
Here.
Alice Johnson.
Here.
And Sharon Ford Robin.
Here.
All right. We're ready to begin. The first thing on is the review of some items with the state assisted update, and we're going to have Kelly give us our go ahead on that.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be meeting with you guys in committee today. I have online virtually the Superintendent of Menifee County Schools in Spencer, and I also have on Philip Watts, the Superintendent of Breathitt County Schools. As you know, both of these districts are in state assistance, and so we're doing our quarterly update with them. Just a little FYI information, Breathitt County, well, let me go Menifee first. Menifee will be going through a management audit in the spring of 22. So we'll be bringing that back to you guys after that to determine if they will move out of state assistance or not. And Breathitt County will be going through a management audit in the fall of 22. So that seems far off, but we kind of really have to plan these things ahead of time. So just an FYI on that.
One question, when did they go on state?
Let's see. Breathitt County, when did they go into state assistance? Yes, Breathitt went into state assistance in December of 2019.
Okay.
And Menifee County went into state assistance in June of 2019.
Okay.
So under the statute, we are required to do a management audit within 3 years of when they entered into that status.
Okay.
So that's why those dates are set for spring for Menifee and fall for Breathitt.
Okay, thank you.
We'll start with Menifee, and before I turn it over to Tim, I will just share with the group that both of these districts have recently passed the nickel tax and have construction projects underway. And Menifee opened up their brand new K-8 building that I'm sure Tim will touch on. But I went to the opening of that back in July, and it was a very nice ceremony, and it was really an emotional event to be a part of that through this journey, and they had a packed gym with community members, so it was very impressive to see how much the community appreciated that new facility, and it was absolutely gorgeous. So Tim, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Foster. Appreciate the opportunity to present before the Operations Committee today. We are very proud of the accomplishments of Menifee County. Kind of give a little background. Menifee County went under state management in 2015, and of course, as Dr. Foster mentioned, we were state assisted I guess in not recently, and we're looking forward to continue moving forward. Very proud of the Board of Education here in Menifee County. They've worked very hard and establishing procedures and protocols and working on what is the best interest of the kids. We are excited about Menifee Central. We actually consolidated 2 schools, Botts Elementary and Menifee Elementary, into Menifee Central. Currently houses approximately 650 students. And so far, today is our 38th day of in-person learning. Knock on wood, we've not had to stop and start, but this is the 38th day. Last week, we went through a week of 0 quarantines. First time we've done that the entire school year. So it does appear that hopefully our COVID-19 numbers are headed in a downward spiral. We also took Botts Elementary. We've designated it as Botts Early Learning Center now. We have approximately 80 3- and 4-year-olds in a partnership with the Gateway Head Start that is attending Botts Elementary and our Early Learning Center. We also have a lot of projects going on in Menifee County. We started the groundbreaking today or yesterday of a new central office for the Menifee County School District. That will be up in the same vicinity as the new Menifee Central. We hope to have that completed by May of 2023. We're also installing a new greenhouse at the high school because of the current greenhouse that we have is located at Menifee Elementary and was a long distance from the high school for our high school students to participate. We're also venturing with App Harvest, and at the end of this month, we will have a container box that is provided by App Harvest that will be part of our high school agriculture program and our CTE program. So we're very excited about those things. And also, we're starting an HVAC process at the high school till will allow us to have all pneumatic controls at the high school for our HVAC units, which will also increase the amount of fresh air and the air purifications within the high school building. As I stated earlier, with COVID-19, we are zero quarantines. 80% of our staff have been vaccinated. Several of our students have been vaccinated. We implemented starting last week with our test and stay program. We're partnering with Premier Lab out of Russell County, and so far that has been a good venture for us, as we've had some folks that have decided to participate that in order to keep students in school. We also, our virtual learning academy, we're starting to see those numbers decrease, and we're starting to see a number of kids that are coming back to in-person learning. Got some exciting news yesterday afternoon that Menifee Central has been selected by the Pritchard Committee as one of the 58 schools across the state to participate in the Family Friendly Schools Network. So we received that information yesterday, and we're excited about that. Also, to assist with the socio and emotional losses during the COVID-19, we've hired 2 additional student advocates to work with our kids, additional school nurse, and we're also establishing a sensory classroom within our schools to try to give those kids a calming effect as we bring them back into in-person learning. A lot of exciting things going on, and of course, we're always working on trying to with learning loss, to try to get our students back on track, incorporating a lot of after-school programming, a lot of interventions throughout the day, and just so proud of the staff here at Menifee County as everyone's working together in order to get our students back on track. And I'm proud to say that Menifee County is a student-centered school district. A lot of good things going on, and we appreciate the support of Dr. Foster, all of her staff, as well as everyone involved. We've got a great team here.
Thank you, Tim. All right, Phil, go ahead.
Can I have some questions with that?
Sure.
Actually, the process, when I looked through this fairly exhaustive sheet of accomplishments, who put that together? Is that an audit committee, or did the school itself do
School
that?
itself. They complete their 3069 plans and turn those into me regularly.
I see. And then who grades the green and red?
The district does that as well.
Okay.
They get that information from their last management audit.
Mm-hmm.
So when they get a management audit back, there are improvement priorities identified. So as soon as that happens, they have been trained extensively on continuous improvement, systems work, and 3069A planning. So they take the improvement priorities out of that management audit and areas of concern, plug them into those documents.
Mm-hmm.
At the very beginning, when they were under state management, we had staff on hand that did that for them at the very beginning, and walked them through their weekly leadership meetings to kind of make sure what's really green is really green, what's really red is really red.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, the whole goal is to build that capacity at the district level, so they can take ownership of that.
Yeah. Thank you. Good process. The formats for the two are different for Bethel, and I didn't know.
At the very beginning, it was all very much KDE template.
Mm-hmm.
But as they build that capacity, we want them to have, some ownership and what their documents look like and what works best for them. But the concept about 306090 is still the same.
There's just a lot of detail in here.
Yes.
It's a lot to keep your mind on, I'm sure, when you have other things going on, but it looks like you got a lot of green. So congratulations on other things that you announced. I'm sorry, go ahead, Kelly.
All right. Any other questions for Tim in Menifee County? Yes, ma'am.
Certainly, the capital improvements that you're doing and the academic improvements speak for themselves, but I don't think that it can happen with the kind of enthusiasm we hear in your voice without strong community support. So could you speak to how the community has contributed to you're embracing a continuous improvement mindset and using the information of these feedback tools to help justify or rationalize the actions that you're taking, and has the community embraced that as well?
First of all, it's a team approach. We've been very transparent since I arrived here as state manager working for KDE back in 2015. The local Board of Education takes great pride in this community, and we've been very transparent from day one And we've had a lot of community buy-in, and it really started on January the 3rd of 2017. Actually, a little bit prior to that, when the local board of education passed the nickel tax, and then the community came forward and voted for a nickel tax on January 3rd of 2017. And then it really all became a reality with the construction of an $18 million facility at Menifee Central that was just opened back in August. So I would say being transparent, having local board of education members that are involved in the community, and just having a team approach of, everything that we do in Menifee County is based upon the needs of our students. Every decision that the local board of education based upon is the need of our students. And, Menifee County is a small rural county, and you can just sense the sense of pride throughout the community when they drive up and look at Menifee Central. And really, if you've not been to Menifee County is known for Cave Run Lake and the Red River Gorge. And actually, Menifee Central was actually built at the beginning of the Red River Gorge. And a lot of folks come up and think it's actually a resort sitting out in the middle of the gorge. So it's a beautiful facility, and a community pride, and just being transparent and letting everyone know what's going on. And I can't speak, I speak very highly of my Board of Education, but I also speak very highly of my district staff, and also the teachers, the parents, and our students. It just takes everyone working together. We're not happy with our current status of our test scores, but everyone, as we're starting to do our data analysis, we'll start our 30, 60, 90s, and we'll continue to make those improvements to where we're headed in a good pathway as we hopefully exit state assistance in hopefully April of 2022.
How did the citizens' vote go for the 5% tax? Was it tight, or was it?
I couldn't understand. I couldn't hear the question, Dr. Todd.
How was the vote? You said the board passed the 5%, but then you had to have a vote on that from the citizens?
We did. We had a vote, and I think it was like 590 to like 510 or something like that in favor of the tax. And you got to remember, it was a special called election on January the 3rd. And I will speak highly. The mayor took a full page ad out in the newspaper. County judges, state representatives, everyone was in favor. But it was a very tiresome process. The finance officer, everyone involved with it, just really worked very hard going out and promoting. And now everyone is seeing the fruition of all the hard work and labor of what happened. But it wasn't an easy process. And I wish there was some way that we could get that process changed of having to do the recallable nickel as we go through in future legislative sessions.
You really should be congratulated for pulling that off. I think we ought to give a David Karam Award. Pushing everybody to get that 5%, get that nickel in. And I think if your citizens see what happens, maybe the next time around, or maybe we ought to consider something legislatively to change that process as well, because it takes money. It's the way it is. And
well, especially in a small rural Eastern Kentucky district, a nickel tax. Right now, actually, we've had some assessment increases due to the fact of the prospect of some resorts going in over at Natural Bridge and Red River Gorge, and a lot of people have been coming in purchasing property. But actually, our assessments have actually decreased since the nickel tax was passed. So this kind of goes to show you that we need to someone needs to take a look at those assessments as we continue going through and seeing how that process of a nickel is actually raised for small rural districts.
good point.
I would add what Tim didn't mention is that none of that could have happened without his leadership.
Yeah,
when he went in as state manager, the community was not very supportive of the local school district. There was a lot of division. There was a lot of small town politics. So what Tim has been able to do with everyone else he mentioned, parents, teachers, faculty, staff, but without his leadership, they would not be where they are today.
Yeah, that's very clear that you feel the passion and you present it well. It's tough to change an attitude in a place where it's divisive, but you've obviously done it, or you wouldn't have gotten that vote passed. So congratulations on that.
Thank you for the kind words, but it's a team approach. I don't take any accolades for it. It's everyone working together. And but I do appreciate those words, Dr. Foster.
That's why I brought it up to him, because I knew to Breathitt County now, and the same goes for Philip and his leadership at his central office. And Philip, I'll give you an opportunity to talk about what's going well and the next steps in your district too.
Well, thank you all, and it's always hard to follow Mr. Spencer. It sounds like we've got so much in common that I'll be saying a lot of the stuff over and over. But good news. I guess it's always good to call Mr. Spencer for advice and things like that, and I do that commonly. And he said he'd had 38 consecutive days of school, and I never hardly get to beat him to the punch. So today's 39 for us, Tim. We're one day ahead. That's a big success story. 39 in consecutive days. Couldn't say. So proud of the staff and the students and the parents and the caregivers and the Board of Education for allowing us to get in-person classes and get that going. Super proud of the staff. It's full-time is over 85% vaccinated. Now we're trying to reach the 90% mark, and hopefully we'll hit 100%. Just keep chugging along on getting the vaccinations done. Our board matched the $100 initiative, so thank you all for that. Just to tell our story a little bit, our ending balance got really low several years ago, almost below the threshold, and probably around 300,000. We ended the year last year at $3.3 million. So that's been the last 4 years something we've really worked hard on. Not that we have a lot of money, but we are back to a normal operatable contingency of around 18, 19, 20%. So we're excited. Our board did approve us to do the test to stay, so we're working on our process with the local health department, and we hope to bring that option into our schools here soon. You all talked a lot about new construction. We are building a new elementary. It's scheduled to be open in the winter of 2022. That's hard to say. Real excited there in town, after doing the local nickel and all of that. We did receive a little bit of other funding, and we hired an architect, and we are starting a big project that was a big vision of the board as our area technology center. So we're super excited, and we're hopeful that we will get to build that facility also. We did experience a Coliseum fire. We just shored that building up. That was over a $3 million insurance project. We also have got some flood damage that we're working on. So we've got all kinds of BG1s going on, and it's really unusual territory for a district like us to have a lot of building projects going on with declining enrollment. So we're very, very thankful. The nickel tax brought in around $19 million of bonding potential, and then we've had some other revenue sources and things like that. So we're very blessed and very excited. We've not had much progress made towards facilities since probably most of our buildings were built in the 60s, and then we've had very few little construction going on over time. So good to tell that story. We are excited about our fall break. We don't hardly ever take a fall break, and with the commissioner's wise words he's sending out about well-being, we're really going to challenge all of our community to take a fall break the 13th, 14th, and 15th, and weekend will be a 5-day break. So trying to promote social, emotional well-being during that time to rest and reflect and to get going. We're starting to analyze our data from academically, and got a lot of work to do on that. Just kind of concerned about the stress level of our staff and students, and then personnel and substitutes, things like that. We're all kind of in this together, and then we're just super excited with all the positive stuff that's going on with Breathitt County Schools.
Thank you, Philip.
How did your vote go for the 5%?
Tim did it. I think we actually approved that just a little bit ahead of him in June. We actually had the recall petition that was taken out against us, so we had to go to the poll that fall. We only won by 100 and some votes, but a very, very difficult task here in our local community. You talked about I was serving as interim then, and I went to the physical court meeting. I went to a city council meeting. I went to retired teachers, Chamber of Commerce, and then the group. I went to someone called and wanted me to come and explain it at our senior citizens, and that was not a good choice on my part. And it just trying to sell that out in the community, and then going around to our teachers and making sure they understood it, along with all of our staff, bus drivers, and things like that, just to get buy-in. So we were very fortunate, like Tim, to win that at the poll, and we're very blessed with that increased revenue.
I used to have a comment at my company: when in doubt, sell. And it looks like you both had to sell, and be congratulated on that. You mentioned a test to stay. What does that mean? I don't,
That's the third quarantine option that we're allowed to promote now from the Kentucky Department of Public Health. Whereas if a child is quarantined due to a school exposure, we could get them a test and keep them in class rather than keeping them quarantined at home. It's not for athletic purposes and things like that. It's only, and it doesn't take you off quarantine, and then it's only for school exposure. So, for example, I'm a parent of 2 elementary students that's both been quarantined twice this year. If they were symptom free, they could have been swabbed and they could have had some more seat time.
what's about the mask adoption within your student population?
We're good with the mask adoption. Really proud of the community. Very limited complaints. And then our local board is really real supportive of the mask. We actually had approved that before the governor made his announcement. And then the vaccinations, we've been really supportive over that.
Well, congratulations on those. It's really has been contentious, and you've done well. Thank you.
And I would just add my comments to Superintendent Spencer and Superintendent Watts. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And Philip, I recognize those books on your desk, and I heard Tim talk about student-centered learning. And so those are just the kinds of conversations that you should be having and leading. And I know it's easy to get bogged down in the management and operations and building contingencies and all of that stuff. But as Dr. Foster mentioned, you guys continue to lead with a big vision around student-centered learning, and I appreciate that very much.
I have watched firsthand how both of these districts, our superintendents have been through so much the last 18 months, having to worry about things they never thought they'd have to worry about before, but they have through everything. Both districts really tried to keep it student-centered, student-focused, and keep instruction at the front. Health and safety has become a big issue, substitutes, transportation, but both of those districts through all of that have really worked hard not to lose focus of the instructional piece, because before the pandemic, they were both starting to see gains instructionally, and so now we know that we've got a lot of work to do as far as learning loss, but I have utmost confidence in both of them and their leadership teams that they'll be able to close that gap.
Well, thank you.
Dr. Foster, that's why you see the gray hair and the lack of hair and the gray beard.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
So just to review, there's no requirement for a vote, but congratulations to you and your team too for having.
Lots of people in the agency here, a lot of Robin staff in the early days, and then our education recovery staff. We still have one education recovery staff member supporting in Breathitt, but we pulled everybody out of Menifee. So lots of folks at the department have put in a lot of time and effort for several years now. So I'm excited about their reviews coming up next year.
It made a difference, so that's really great. All right, thank you. All right, we now go to some action items where there will be required voting. The first one is the approval of Jessamine County School District request for site acquisition. Approved that they do exceed the 10% maximum, so we'll hear from them now.
Thank you, Dr. Todd. It's a pleasure to be here with you, especially in committee. It's nice to see everyone again, even if we all have masks. It's still great to see people in 3D rather than 2D.
That's true.
The first agenda item we have is a proposed acquisition site. This is for Jessamine County School District. We do not have invited guests from the district on this one. This one's a little more, I guess we would say, vanilla in terms of a waiver request. With me today is Che Ritter, and Che is the Director of District Support Services that has the facilities branch within his division. I'm going to let him kind of walk through the Jessamine County, and then we're available to answer any questions.
Sure, thank you, Robin. And let me also say it's nice to actually see everyone. I recognize everyone on TV. So this project, I'm still in my facilities cloud here. The property, not project, the property, is the reason this is in front of you because it exceeds the 10% of the maximum budget of the project. And of course, in Jessamine County, and I know we have at least a board chair that's very familiar with property there, that as you've seen over time, sometimes these property purchases in some communities will exceed that project cost, and thus it becomes, gets in front of you all for your approval. And the details of this one is actually a little different. The proposed site is actually 65 acres. The There's a minimum of 31 acres needed for the campus, but they're going to go ahead and buy some additional land. And I believe, maybe not in the last board meeting, but the one before that, or even the one before that, we talked about sort of a longer-term picture for some of the districts when they're buying land.
Right.
And this one will be about 22.2% is the site acquisition and development cost.
Mhm.
This number varies depending on where you go. Of course, we had Johnson County, I think the last meeting, which was pretty far in excess of that. Of course, there's not much flat land there.
Right.
Jessamyn's a little more fortunate, they do have flat land, but there is some added expense because it's in Jessamyn County near Fayette, of course, too. So, does anyone have any questions? I'd be glad to answer anything. Okay.
And the plans for the additional acreage is for future building purposes, I would assume, so.
Right, I believe this is going to be a campus for a 900 student middle school and a 650 student elementary school.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the committee? We're just being asked to pass the excess over 10%.
Yeah.
Do you have a motion to pass such a
I'll
recommendation?
make that motion, Dr.
Right.
Todd.
And I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, good. And down.
So Dr. Todd,
I'm sorry,
we'll
go
just
ahead.
proceed?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry, thank
So,
you.
so the next proposal, the next project we have before you is the proposed acquisition by Campbell County School District of a site for a new middle school. Again, the acquisition cost and site development exceeds 10% of the maximum project, and that's why it is before you today. It's similar to the first one we just discussed. We have Superintendent David Russ that's joining us. Hello, Superintendent Russ.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Doing well. Thank you for joining us today. Che, if you'll give a brief overview, and then we'll invite Superintendent Rust if he has any additional comments that he'd like to provide.
Sure, thank you, Robert. So I'll leave some of the details to Superintendent Russ, as I think he's very familiar with this. He's been obviously part of this process, and we've been in pretty long communication with their district during this process. The proposed site, which is in the city of Cold Spring, this is for a new middle school to serve, the northern portion of the county. And this property is a little different because there's an existing facility on that property, which was the Disabled American Veterans Building, and plus some acreage. There is a high-pressure gas line that runs through the property, so the district, their architect, there's a requirement that no part of the facility be within 200 feet of that for safety purposes, so they've been very conscious of that throughout the project. And this also is in an area, and I believe I'm going to sort of paraphrase something Dr. Russ said one day, is that land is sort of at a premium. This type and size area in that Campbell County is at a premium there. So it's very hard for them to find an appropriate amount of space for a school or a new facility. So, Dr. Russ, did you have anything you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I guess I would just say that, as Mr. Ritter mentioned, the existing building on the property was a key point, which also does increase the value of the property quite a bit. It's 170,000 square feet building that gives us the ability to renovate as opposed to having to build from scratch, which saves the taxpayers dollars. And in terms of the amount, this location is about 3 or 4 minutes away from Northern Kentucky University. So you can imagine with its location that there's a premium in the cost of property in the northern part of our county. So I would just add those two pieces to Mr. Ritter's notes.
And Superintendent Rust, if I can also chime in on that, our regulation really doesn't contemplate very well where a district is actually contemplating purchasing something with a building already on there. So when we're talking about that 10%, it really more than likely envisions just land.
Right.
So I think that is also something that should that I share with you as you consider the waiver itself, that this is a unique circumstance in that regard as well.
But there are some trade-offs in that site development. A lot of the site development work has already happened as opposed to buying something in a more rural area.
That's true.
I recall from our call the other day, there are a couple of, I thought, outstanding items about, from engineering, talking about the the pipes and things that are under there for future building. and something
Easements.
about- and there's something also about, was it the entrance to the place was going to be covered by the state or
Yes,
something like that?
so that's in another waiver request. That's,
Okay.
we've got, another superintendent online to help us
Alright.
address that one. We're getting our projects a little commingled here.
Okay. And that-
So I'm sure
I missed
Superintendent
that.
Russ is like, oh my gosh, egress. This land, however, is going through, and Shay, you correct me when I say something wrong here, or Superintendent Russ, it's the subject of an eminent domain action.
Yeah.
And so we do have the school district and the city of Cold Springs kind of involved in that at this time. However, we are trying to look at this from the perspective at the Department of Education that we're just trying to figure out if that wasn't happening, that'll happen separate, whatever direction that
Okay.
heads. We're looking at just the requirements in order for us to grant a waiver and recommend that to the board today. So
Okay.
we feel comfortable with that.
Sorry for the confusion since, but it is interesting that there's a facility there and that does change the valuation and it's not in a bad location, that close to Northern Kentucky University. So do we have a motion to approve this waiver? Aaron? Okay.
I so move.
Second.
Just for clarification on the motion, it's not only to approve to exceed the 10%, but also to waive a portion of the regulation that prevents easements from traversing the site.
that's
Both
right.
of those.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, Todd. So that is the other portion of it. There are easements that transverse the site. Obviously, those were considered when they
Yeah.
constructed the initial building, I would think. Superintendent Russ, do you have anything else that you want to weigh in on the easements themselves?
I would just note that these are gas easements. They traverse the majority of Northern Kentucky. They actually do run right by Northern Kentucky University. They run right through the middle of the Thomas More University campus. They run actually very near they run right behind the St. Joseph Elementary School just up the road. So it's a pretty prominent gas main that runs through a large portion of Northern Kentucky. We were able to get a letter, we've done our due diligence, got a letter from the Public Service Commission basically saying that there was no hazard or safety issue with this line. And I have also been in close contact with Duke Energy, which owns and maintains the lines, and they regularly check these lines. They've actually said that they're scheduled for regular maintenance and actually possibly a replacement coming down the road. So we're very happy and very pleased with the due diligence reports coming back from the different agencies and the engineers.
Work on that. All right, so we have a motion for both of those items in the second. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Congratulations on all the work you've done, because.
Thank you, Dr. Todd.
Thank you, Todd, for bringing that to our attention.
Catch that.
The next requested waiver is from Madison County. The proposed acquisition by the Madison County School District for a site for a new middle school. And again, the site acquisition cost and site development exceed 10% of the maximum budget. And we have Superintendent Gilliam with us. Hello there. Oh,
Good afternoon. How are you all?
thank you for joining us, Superintendent. I'm going to again turn to Che and let him do a brief summary of the project, and then we invite the superintendent to provide any additional comments.
This one's fairly straightforward. They exceed the 10%. They're at 11.5%, so not very far over that. Again, this is a fairly routine waiver in that sense. And Superintendent Gilliam, joins us today just to answer any questions you may have. But this will allow them, in our conversation, Superintendent Gilliam, this is a great location, I believe, for the district for this project. Of course, Madison County has grown a lot, continues to grow, and land is getting a little tighter down there, I'm sure. So that becomes an issue in a lot of our counties surrounding Fayette, because now everybody's starting to spread out a little bit. So I'm sure we'll see this again in some surrounding counties, but I will allow Dr. Gilliam plenty of time to discuss this project as well.
All right. Well, thank you. Yes, as you mentioned, land is becoming a premium here, particularly when you look for enough land for a school site and when you try to get a place that's somewhat level. near a roadways and with appropriate utilities and everything, we begin to compete with business. We can begin to compete with industry, developers wanting apartment complexes and so forth. And so in this particular circumstance, we're fortunate and in order to be able to join next to an ingoing development that's currently in the process of being finalized through the city and with the county and everything. So it's really a perfect location considering our three feeder elementaries. This is kind of at the center of the triangle of those three elementary schools, and nice roadways all the way into it. We are replacing a current middle school building that was initially built in 1928. It was the old Madison High years ago, and we converted it to Madison Middle in 1992 in Madison County Schools. So that's what we are proposing. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Superintendent Gilliam, when we talked with the chair of the committee earlier this week, we were sharing our usual circumstances is we require that letter from the local government to make sure that you have appropriate road access. And you are in a little bit of a chicken and an egg situation here. What is happening is part of this property is currently being annexed by the city, but it has not happened yet.
Okay.
And so you've got the county who is anticipating that this property is going to be annexed, and so they don't want to give us really a letter that says we'll commit X number of dollars. And the city has given us a letter that indicates that they fully support the project and support what Madison County is trying to do. But at this point in time, they don't have the dollar amount yet. So they don't have schematics or all that stuff. So Superintendent Gilliam, can you kind of address that a little bit with our members here and let them know kind of where we are? And my understanding is you might have an alternative backup plan in case that doesn't work.
Sure. Yeah. So I referenced the development. So with the new development that's going in, Madison County, the current area right there is in the county, but it was recently annexed in. Just the area of land that we are purchasing was annexed into the city. The roadway is still a county road, but that roadway is in the process of going through voluntary annexation into the city as well. The city of Richmond has already had their first read on it and approved it. The Madison County has already had their, by resolution, entered into voluntary annexation of that roadway. So we're just a few weeks away from that final piece of the city of Richmond taking it in. Now, the roadway that we're talking about there is the main road that the school will front, which is Goggins Lane. Goggins Lane is currently 3-lane. It has a big wide lanes on each side and a center turn lane. There is already an entrance to our property stubbed in that should be adequate for our ingress and egress into the school. Our second roadway in or ingress and egress into this middle school would come off of the development road, which the developer is in the process of going through the final planning and zoning piece with the city of Richmond. And as we mentioned, the city of Richmond has indicated they fully support the project, so they're going to make sure that, and it will be secured with a construction bond through the developer, that roadway that's going in that will then be turned over to the city as a city street will be adequate for school, another means of ingress and egress. If that were to all fall through, there's again additional space onto Goggins Lane that we would then work with. If all that were to fall through, it would come back to the county, and the county we would work with them. So there's a few balls still up in the air, but everything is. We have contingency plans on all of it, and the state highway department has come out. They have looked at everything, and they've given what they consider to be, I guess, kind of a clean bill of health there on the Goggins Lane, although it's a county road. But they looked at the intersection of Barnes Mill and Goggins, which Barnes Mill Road is a state road, and the highway, the State Department of Transportation has allocated, I think it's $430,000 or $480,000 for some improvements there at the corner of Barnes Mill, on the Barnes Mill, at the corner of Barnes Mill and Goggins. So everything seems to be really good as far as getting it all finalized, and I don't anticipate any issues whatsoever. But we do have there's just a few things there that still have to take place.
So Todd, does the status of the city letter, county letter satisfy what we need for approval?
Yeah, I think it does, and, there are several contingency plans in place, it sounds like. I think that, and Robin and Jay can speak to this more, we're seeing as, resources become tighter and tighter, more of this situation where city, county, state, everybody wants to pass the ball in paying for a turning lane or a roadway or whatever the case may be because their budgets are tight. But the fact is, the school district can't spend their money on it because it's a transportation function, not an education function.
Right.
So it sounds like the district has, various contingencies in place to ensure that there's adequate roadway access. It sounds like to
Yes.
front.
And I appreciate Superintendent Gilliam kind of walking through that because we were having such, it is unusual that we find ourselves in these circumstances. And the district, we think, has made a really good effort to try to think of all those contingency plans to make sure that they have someone on the hook to pay for that. And if not, they've got this backup plan. So we feel comfortable from a staff perspective and we're recommending that it move forward with that.
And Dr. Gillum, optimally with once annexation happens, will you have more than one egress option on the site?
Yes, currently we have one, and then the street that's going in, we will have an additional one off of it. And as I said, if that falls through, we have another spot onto Goggins Lane that we would be able to acquire. We would work with the county to make sure that happened. Yeah. We shouldn't have any issues.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the request for the site acquisition for Madison County School District.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, and any other comments, questions? All in favor say, oh.
Yeah, I just would commend Dr. Gillum for the foresight planning and the stamina to negotiate the cross-jurisdictional issues associated with this project, as in addition to finding a highly desirable site. It seems you've had to thread a lot of jurisdictional issues, and it's been commendable that you walk away with contingency plans and a highly desirable site. So congratulations.
Comments? And I have a comment. I'll wait till after we vote, but if not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, passes. My question to you is that your 10%, you're only over by 1.5%.
Yeah.
How much anguish did it cause you to have to deal with that situation?
Well, there's anguish in this whole piece. Yeah, finding properties, you've heard from these other superintendents, finding property. There's lots of land in Madison County we could get, but we don't have roadways to it, or we don't have utilities. So when you combine all three of those, then you put the price cap on it. Now it becomes really problematic. But we appreciate your all support and thank you for doing what you're doing.
We have talked about the fact that different counties have different, expenses, and whether this 10% rule should still be as defined as it is, but we might take that into consideration because
yes.
For 1.5%, we hate to put you through a whole lot more.
And I would also add this: when you look at the 10% piece, the way we're calculating that by reg is off of the number that's on your district facility plan, which our district facility plan on this middle school, I think, is $20 million. We're going to spend close to we're going to spend more like 30 million, but in reality. So this project, in reality, when we actually get it bid, will not exceed the 10%, but it will exceed 10% of that need-based item that's on our district facility plan. So that's where we are.
Well, we should look into that.
And to that point, we're really appreciative. Superintendent Gilliam is actually on our school facilities task force that we've been meeting. and asking superintendents as well as facility directors to weigh in on things that are pain points for them and what we might do about changing that. So he has actively participated in that with us. So we really appreciate his time in doing that as well.
Yeah. You know, Stevie Covey says management's job is to make employees' jobs easier. And if there's a way we could make it easier on these folks and within the limits of what they need to do, that'd be great. So thank you all very much. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent.
All right. We now turn to Fayette County for approval of the request to waive 702 KAR 4160 related to the total allowable floor area for a new middle school.
Okay. This is for Fayette County School District to waive the allowable floor area of the new middle school to meet that student capacity. Jay, I'm going to invite you again to kind of do a summary of Fayette County. This one is a little bit different. Before we were talking about over cost, this is over space.
So there is a model program of spaces that you've probably heard us talk about 1,000 times, and our largest middle school in that model is about 900 students. Fayette County, of course, is going to build something larger at 1,200. So we have to kind of push our model out a little bit. However, since that exceeds the model, it requires a waiver. And when you read into the details of this, the additional space, or I should say expansion, is in administrative areas for health, mental health, and social service professionals, for anti-bullying, metal detection, and other security measures as well. So this is, I think we briefly mentioned the other day, we're seeing more of that concept of some more spaces for health and wellness, if you will. We're having a lot more conversations about it with districts than we ever did before, which I think can be a good thing. So this is probably going to start edging its way into these plans more and more as we go forward. So
okay.
So here's the thing. I certainly want to support this, but when do we change the model to recognize that these districts are doing something that we've been encouraging them to do, which is find the space, the light space in the school as a facility for these services that are essential to our children in order for them to learn well. So, it's like, I'll approve anybody that wants to do wraparound services all day long. But when do we make that request superfluous, because that's what we want you to do?
So I had briefly mentioned when Superintendent Gilliam was on the line with us that we're going through this kind of analysis of all our planning manual, our construction manual, because things have changed. It's been a long time since we've looked at those. Those documents are incorporated into regulation by reference. So they will be coming to the state board for consideration of changes to those manuals. And we've been seeking input from school district personnel toward those changes. But you're exactly right. We're seeing with the change in how we really run schools, the old model just doesn't really work very well anymore, quite frankly. Not only in the addition of things that we want, like health and wellness, but we still have things in there about computer labs and people going and building computer labs. Well, everybody has, laptops sitting at their desk. We don't do computer labs anymore. So we have some antiquated information in our documents that really need to be changed.
Sure.
That facilities task force has been meeting all summer, and we're getting to final recommendations, I think.
Just this morning, we sent out a survey to all finance officers. This is sort of the give us your feedback to the larger group. So all finance officers, a long list of architects and construction professionals, and superintendents as well that weren't in the smaller task force. We just got that back in today. So we're starting to review that this morning about 8 o'clock we were talking about it.
And some of these things will take statutory changes, some will take regulatory changes, some will take just policy changes. How can we make, to Dr. Todd's point, how can we make things a little easier and simpler for districts? So that was the goal of establishing the task force in the first place. And so I'm fingers crossed thinking we'll be coming in December, at least with a preview for you all. Now, we may have to partial through and say we need to do this, and this is going to take longer, and this is going to take shorter, but at least a preview of what we're hearing from our districts.
So when we get a statute change, how do we go about pulling that off?
We work with our legislative liaison and we work with Todd, our general counsel, and propose those changes to the General Assembly. We've already had some requests from legislative members about some things that we are seeing preliminarily from our work that we've already done so that they could start working on bill drafts. Of course, we want to come to you all first and talk about that, but they are interested in as well as trying to make it a little bit easier on everybody.
I think that's a very worthwhile thing to be doing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I thank you for your comment very much. I mean, we really scratch our head on some of these about where are we adding value? Where are we adding value to this conversation or to the approvals or what is needed? And sometimes we scratch our head, Shane and I do, and so we're not sure we're not adding a lot of value. So we'll be making some recommendations back to you.
We look forward to that.
Thank you.
All right. Next one, go ahead.
The next one is another allowable floor area for Paducah Independent, very similar actually in kind of what they're trying to accomplish as Fayette County. The other unique thing about this, it really doesn't.
Did we approve?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought we approved it, but maybe not.
I don't think we did.
Oh, I'm sorry. We went right over Fayette County. We got involved in an exciting discussion. We went right over it.
I thought I got a motion and a second.
Maybe we.
Well, let me go ahead, Mary.
We still need to do the vote for Fayette.
Yeah, okay. Do I have a motion? Fayette County?
I thought we had a motion and a second.
I
We
did.
do have.
So,
Are we in discussion, Meredith?
Meredith says we did.
I did not have that. I had.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just.
Yeah,
I'll make that motion then.
All right.
All right.
And we got a second, I'm sure, from Sharon on that one.
There you go.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're done. For that one.
Okay, now we'll go to Paducah Independent,
Okay, thank
and
you.
this is a waiver for allowable floor area for their early childhood center.
Mhm.
Shay, do you want to give a brief?
Yes, ma'am. Paducah Independent will be building an early learning center that will serve 320 students. And if you read a little bit of the detail, once again, we've got some additional space, which will be for administrative and support facilities such as mental health components, family advocate offices, nursing clinics, a disability office, kitchenettes, and some storage. Part of this project will also be a athletic facility, which is not being paid for by federal funds, of course. But this is sort of a fairly significant project, I believe. But the gross square footage limit was a little bit above 39,000. And as we discussed the other day, the athletic facility bumped that up to about 55, which is the athletic facility itself is about 15,000 of that. So that's what the waiver is about, the overage.
Okay. They share a common wall, didn't we say? Or,
I'm sorry, but-
They share a common wall between the early learning.
Yes, I believe so, yes.
But the athletic facility, yeah, that's one thing I guess I was always on the lookout for was when you're trying to get more floor space for an athletic facility that the school has to pay for, but this one's being paid from federal funds. And how do they get that? What federal
Not
funds?
the
Not
athletics
the
part.
athletic.
Federal funds are only for Head Start, so they'll be
Oh,
using
okay.
unrestricted general funds for their
Yeah.
athletic.
I got you, okay.
Their own, yeah.
All right. Any questions on this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second?
Got a motion and a second, Meredith. We're clean to go. Everybody say aye.
All right.
In favor? If you're in favor. I think we got ayes. I say that myself as well. Is that the last one?
I think it was.
Okay, I got a little confused on a couple of those. I think I got the Richmond facility close to Northern Kentucky University. I don't have my laptop with all my notes in it, because I get notes and things, so I've got to remember that. Any other comments on this? I think we made ourselves clear, and she's already gotten ahead of us on looking at some of these issues, because it's really fun to dig into those regulations that need to be updated, so. Comments? Not, we'll go eat lunch.
Adjourn.
Adjourn. We'll need to have a motion to adjourn.
You did tell me that, didn't you?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
And all in favor? Get up, say hi.
Aye.
All right, we're ready to go.
It was unanimous.
It was unanimous.